Trades video round 15. A quick shout out to the Boston Celtics and their fans. Obviously a very, very high chance here of winning their first ring in a long time there. And to the boys that are back there after losing to my Golden State Warriors a few years ago. Good on you. You've worked your way back there. And 3-0. 3-0 at the moment against Dallas. And everyone giving Luka crap about complaining every time he runs down the floor, which is something we have seen from him for a long time, but yeah, not a great situation there. But we're on to our trades, and it's actually been a semi-hard week this week for my thoughts around my trades. And I've made two, and I've kind of mentioned a few of them as potential options. And I have brought in Jaden Campbell and Tyron Wishart. So the big reasoning for those and why this is the range that I'm going for is because the couple of guys that I want to trade out are 458k and 386k. By trading those two guys out, I do get 17 on the park. And the other option there was potentially to remove Galvin out of the side at 643. But he's got a really good position for us long-term in our side. And also, when we look at our half position for round 19, given I have Hughes and Weeks in that position, I only have Galvin as my round 19 half. So I think selling him would be a mistake and I'd have to use multiple trades. And again, I'm not trying to use trades for the sake of it at this point of the season, given now after two trades there, I'll have 15 once we get the extra 8. Not the worst in the world, but not great either, especially if I want to make bulk ranks at the back end of the upcoming rounds, especially these ones before we get the extra trades in round 20 and round 18, 19. I'd like to really push some rankings. And then also heading into the round 25, 26, 27, when a lot of us will be out of trades. That's for sure. So Atkinson and Hughes go to Wishart and Campbell. So I locked in Wishart. I just felt that was the safest as a 4-week play. 15, 16, 17, and 18. Potentially 20 if we can get to that point. But if we don't, that's fine. He has a really big negative break even and scored 86 last week and has that upside in him, obviously. And if not, he has the good base on the other side and hopefully can be a 45 average guy at minimum for the next month of footy. My second trade was the big question. And I wanted to get in a guy that I think has the potential to play a good chunk of rounds, given Wishart is likely a month play. That's where Campbell came in. The other guys I was looking at and the other positions I was looking at was probably the mid position, because if we're looking at my team here, obviously and where I'm at, all the players, I wanted 5 mids. And I am short that one player for round 19. And obviously, if there's any injuries next week, I'm in a little bit of strife as well. But Plath, King, and Fainu for next week, which is sweet. So really, the next mid I want to bring in, I want them to be playing round 19. And that's where someone like David Mwale came into it, because he's obviously a cheapie. He's finally kind of popped off a little bit and playing pretty well. But I was looking at him because he can obviously make some money. We can get like a 40 plus out of him. It looks like at the moment, somewhere around that 41, 42 and get a try and pick up a 58. But he plays round 19 and I wouldn't have to look at, trading anyone in for that week. I also looked at the teams that were available in round 19 if I was to wait until that point, and there's not a lot of good mids on offer. So that's where he was coming into, my general plans. Jack DeBellin was someone that popped up as a Dragons play in round 19 that could be an option, but obviously the buy next week. I don't need an extra mid for next week. So if I had enough cash, I would have tried to get him, I think. Would have been the play, even with the higher break even, but I don't have enough cash, so he's out of the picture. Nafahu White was another one that I had a look at, but obviously, again, not needing that edge. He's a dual position, to edge or middle for next week for round 17 either. So it's like, well, I'd be getting him in and then I'd be looping next week unless we got some injuries. I think he can score well this week and obviously next week as well with a few of their guys out, like Collins as well. So a couple of weeks there, good. He'd probably be a month's play as well. Unsure about a few things with their rotations, what they might do with Butcher, what they might do with Radley, Brandon Smith, these types of guys there. Does Watson go to Origin? There's all these questions around that as well. So I looked at that and went, I'd like him as an option as well, who I haven't really spoken about this week. And have a look at him yourself at 485 with the dual position. If you've already got Fainu there and you're happy to have or need someone for round 16 and round 17 as a mid. And that can be really good for you there. So I had a look at him as well. And then there's not a lot of really good options outside of that. When I first looked at Campbell, I thought, he's the highest upside play out of all these guys I'm looking at, under 585k, I think I can get up to. So 74 in the bank. He's 519. So yeah, 590 or whatever that is, basically. Something like that. Anywho, yeah, just under. Just above. Anyway, can't do maths. 593 is what I can get up to. There's no one really in that price range that is spectacular, to be fair. And he has the highest upside, and he has a good chance of being in this team long term as well. So you look down at 593. Cody Walker came into potential, but I think that he's getting a little bit more expensive. You got Nikora, you got Meaney. You got these types of players who are all like solid, but do they have the upside? You got Jermaine Osako, who's potentially an option as well. That can work, but yeah, around 17, I'm fine, and that's where I've got a bunch of Dolphins players. I'm likely to remove Fuller after next week, I think, is where I'm going to be at. But Coruscant was another potential one, but unsure where he's going to be at as well. And if I want another hooker, I really don't. So I'm looking down this list, and it looks like to me that Campbell obviously saves me a little bit of cash as well, and he gives me some of the highest upside that I'm wanting. I then looked at position. I was like, well, what position am I going to need over the next bunch of weeks? Because if I get another wing fullback, let's just say Galvin backs up, I'm actually overextended in the half and also the wing fullback position next week, because it would be Garrick, Fuller, Wishart, and Campbell down below in the wing fullbacks. And then I would have Hughes, Galvin, and Weeks in the halves. So I would be looping in both the wing fullback position through Drinky and also the half position, which I wouldn't be able to do it, would I? No, I wouldn't be able to loop in the half position. So I'd have to make that decision. But obviously, there's a decent chance as well that Galvin misses next week. And for me, I'll be fine. Again, there's also chances for injuries to come this week. And then maybe I don't have to make a trade if I do get an injury as well. So there's that as like the benefit. But I want to look further the next week, and I needed to look further the next week, because 1 week does not, does not mean everything, right? And in this scenario here, we could do some looping, obviously there, which was helpful as well. That gives me a little bit of an added benefit. But I'm looking and picking up players that are going to be, not just beneficial for next week, because it doesn't really help me as much next week, but it's the cash gains. It's the upside this week, like Campbell up against Tigers, for example. And then I'm looking at further rounds. So I went all the way through to 19, and I need another wing fullback. So I was at 2, right? And that Campbell edition, because Wishart doesn't play around 19, Campbell edition makes that 3 right now. And if I was to be removing Fuller after next week, I would then be back down to 2 again. And that would cause me some issues. And by that point, I think there's a few guys that I might want to have a look at coming into that round 19 and who I can potentially grab in that week as well. So right now I'm sitting at 3 for, that's round 20. I'm talking about round 19. I'll be down to 2, but if I hold Fuller, obviously down up to 3 there, which is cool. So where the way the team's set up right now, that trade in helps me with round 19. It also gives me a high upside player that has a little bit of a risk on position and injury, injuries and backing up from that injury, but he looked pretty good running on the weekend. We're going to take that little bit of a plunge. He's going to help us in round 19. He's going to help us this week, gets us 17 on the park, and go from there. Whereas Wishart, we know that he's a month played. There's no risk on his position. He's playing really well. Sweet, that's where we're at. But halves, we need 1 in round 19, and we need 1 mid in round 19. I'm also very, very likely to not grab a hooker next week. If we do happen to get Brayley with low minutes again, we get an injury to Grant, then next week I will make a hooker trade. Or it gets to a point where I lose one of my edges maybe. If I lose one of my expensive edges, or if you find out that, KPP actually has an injury, it's all sort of rumors for now, then I'll probably trade one of these edges, given I've got 1 extra, to one of those hookers. And I've just written there Jules as well. So what this means here is if I got anyone in another position that can cover hooker, so there's nothing for hooker, I'm 1 short of where I want to be for mids, given there's 4 and I have no Jules in other positions right now. Edge, what I class as like a pure edge, or what I'm going to have in that position. I have 2 Jules in other positions, so Fainu, and then I have Aitken. In the halves position, I have a couple of Jules with Plath, and then Wishart. Center, we don't have any Jules there in other positions. Scratch that. I do have one with Garrick, 1 Jewel. That was a lie. 1 Jewel. And then wing fullback, I have 1 Jewel with Karaz back down to the fullback position as... 2 Jules. Scratch that. With Weeks. How good's that? Cool. So yeah, just to give me a little bit of an idea if I ever need to move up and down between weeks, that's where I'm at. So there you go. Thought that would hopefully that helps you guys with your thoughts. But yeah, 17 this week. I think I'm in a good position with my team this week, given it's Grant, Fainu, Cotter, Plath. For feeder with Kai Pearce-Paul, I'm going to captain Dave against the Tigers. I think that's pretty fair. Hughes and Weeks there. We've got Iro and Aiken. Very happy with that. I'm going to vice captain Aiken, given he's in the first game and has been crushing it. Campbell, Drinkwater, Garrick with wing fullback cover of Wishart along with half cover. Piakura, Blore, and Brayley. So hopefully Brayley can get a good score this week. Piakura can have a decent game like he did last week, and I think we'll have a really good week and make some ranks. Hopefully we can push into the top 1,000 this week. That would be delightful. If you have any other options for me at 593 or below in any position other than, I think, edge, then I'm all ears, but I'm not seeing much apart from Tommy Talau. Who's going for Tommy Talau this week? Let me know in the comments if you are. But yeah, Nafahu White at 485 was a potential option. Geordie Raps, how good. But yeah, there's not a lot else. I can't believe Isaac Tunga's 469. Yeah, no one else I think I'd want that's going to be longer term, like Ethan Strange, 459. Love that. You got Jack Whiten down there at fairly cheap price as well. He's a potential guy, but yeah, I just think Campbell has a little bit more upside than what Whiten does, and against the non-terrific sides, against the non-bad sides, I don't think Whiten's going to perform terrifically well. Like Campbell got 57 against a team that beat him 46-12, so it shows that he can do a lot when they get smashed as well, and with the ball out of play a fair bit. So I think that's where I'm at for my team at the moment. A little bit of an upside play there, and Wishy as well. Don't have Latrell this week. That's my really only worry. And then obviously some of the top guns I don't own, but they're all like Origin guys. Worried about Hines in that first game as well. So yeah, a few things to worry about from some of the top guys, but I am set up better for obviously round 16, 17, 19, 20, these types of rounds there than some other people might be if they have these top guns that play Origin. So that's where my team is at this week, and then we'll quickly shift over to the head-to-head to let you know about the one trade that we're going to make over there. So I actually haven't made the trade yet. We're at 193k in the bank. I do have Hughes to move on from, and that can get me basically up to where I was at in my team there. And look, there's a couple of options here. We can go up to a mid, right, if we wanted to. So that would leave us with 5 mids going forward. That'd be pretty cool, right? Plath could come down, to be honest with you as well, given I'll have King will come in for Cotter next week. I'll have Cotter, Harris, and then if I bring in a mid, so if I bring in like a Nafahu White or something like that, that could work. As a head-to-head team, missing out on a round 19 player, not going to be as much of an issue. Will help me out this week as well. I could also hold off on trades, given I've got 8. I've got a full 17 this week. That's a potential option. Jaden Campbell, another one to look at in this side. And obviously, given it's a head-to-head team, I'm less worried or less inclined to actually think about what I've got on deck next week, because we can count it out here, and it's not going to be pretty. Because Plath, it's Harris, it's Fafita with 3. We've got Weeks with 4. We've got Garrick 5, Wishart 6. Then we have Manu 7, Blory 8, King and Reed 9 and 10. Galvin hopefully 11, Hughesy 12 at the moment, but it's leaves me room to make that one extra trade next week and then position that I need. So yeah, I think it's basically the 3 guys as I was looking at. It's Davi Moale, it is Nafahu White. I could go for a Jack Whiten, given I do need a centre for next week. It's potentially an option there in this side if I wanted to stay fairly cheap and leave some cash in the bank. Whiten works because I do need a centre for next week, which is good. And yeah, the wing fullback in Campbell as well. So at this stage, it's likely to be Campbell as well, but I do see some appeal in a Nafahu White for sure, given my situation where I'm playing a little bit more than half of my head-to-heads next week. I do need to get some wins, so getting some benefit for next week as well, which I think Nafahu White will. I think Campbell's going to be really solid as well. Whiten should be decent, but comes up against some harder opposition. So for me at this point, it's probably Nafahu White, or it's going to be Jaden Campbell for Sam Hughes. We can loop that one player, which will be cool. And we'll muck around. If it is a centre, I'll muck around with looping the centre position. I won't be able to do that, will I? No. I'll be able to loop whoever's on the emergencies just by themselves. But whoever plays in that earlier game, basically, is who I'll be able to loop, which, in this scenario, in my team, will I be looping Nicker again? It seemed to work last week, for sure. Yeah, that was good with the 55. Raiders up against Cows. Won't be bothering looping Weeks. I don't think we could do with Cole. Might be the early game to do that, for sure. Drinky, could we look Drinky? No. Who else? Mids. If I brought in a mid, I could loop a mid. Yeah, a few things to think about. Anyway, across the head-to-head team, that's my thoughts. That's where we're going to go out this week. And I wish you guys all the best of luck with your trades heading into round 15. Obviously, we've got that first game tonight. Set your vice captains and captaincies. Good luck to all Nico potential captainers in game 1. I will be jealous of you, but thankfully he's not ridiculously highly owned now that a lot of people have actually sold. So let me see footy stats where he actually ended up in overall ownership. So he's not in that top 10. He's down at 27% overall ownership, but down at 26% in the top 5,000, 22 in the top 1,000. So not the end of the world if he goes bonkers tonight, but hopefully with a higher break even, he goes like 60 or 70, which I still think is fine, and you'll take that as 65, guys. Obviously, as owners, not the end of the world. It kind of helps me, helps you with a decent score, not so crazy score, and he loses a bit of cash, and we can pick him up in round 21 for a little bit cheaper. That's my goal anyway. So yeah, so good luck, guys. We'll see you in that review video tomorrow.